The other two issues are job insecurity. I just saw a survey from the New York Fed that said something like 70% of all workers are worried about their jobs, about losing their jobs. So there's that insecurity. And then the last issue is just what's happened to the consumer financially, and particularly that segment of the population, which is sizable, that doesn't have much savings and lives from paycheck to paycheck. And this is going to make it so they're even more cautious. So those are the three big issues that affect the consumer.
As we look at the models that you all run at the Fed, is it likely this pandemic will actually affect the potential growth for the United States? I mean, I think before it was probably around 2% more or less. Does this take that number down somewhat going out into the out years?
Yeah, it may, and so we'll have some snapback growth in 2021. We'll grow faster than potential next year. We'll grow at a higher rate. If potential's 2%, we think we're going to grow a lot faster than 2% because we're making up for what happened this year. But after you get into the future, there's two things that drive potential growth. One is growth in the workforce, and the second is growth in productivity. And the concern I have is you have a number of people that are going to lose their jobs and are going to have to find new jobs. Some of them who are older, it's possible will decide to retire, i.e. just withdraw from the workforce. Others will need to get retrained. Some will find it hard to find other jobs. So workforce growth, as we're running down the unemployment rate, you would expect a good rate of workforce growth. As we run that down, though, we had a workforce growth issue coming into this because we're aging. Demographics were such we already had a workforce growth challenge, and we're going to have to relook at that, and that means job training. It also means revisiting a sensitive subject, immigration, appropriate immigration, ways to grow the workforce.
That was Robert Kaplan, president of the Dallas Fed. Coming up on Wall Street Week, we talk oil with our contributor Afsani Beshlos of Rock Creek Group. This is Wall Street Week on Bloomberg.
Business. Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times, our commitment to providing you with the best mortgage experience remains. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. Mortgage rates remain near historic lows. If you think that now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
If knowledge is power, the Bloomberg Terminal is your power up, connecting you to the real-time financial news, data, and analytics that can take your workflow to the next level. Power up at bloomberg.com/professional.
Your business landscape. It's ever-changing.
Do you think that we are going to see an all-out trade war?
Ours is too.
Does the Fed turn a little softer, and do we get an agreement on U.S.-China?
We have something else in common.
How will they right-size their debt portfolio?
We seek out the latest business news wherever we are.
Elon Musk is reinventing a manufacturing process at SpaceX.
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. If you're having trouble finding what you want at the store, your credit card's concierge service may be able to help.
I used my credit card concierge service to find toilet paper at a few local stores.
Ted Rossman, industry analyst at creditcards.com, says the service used to be for things like snagging tickets to sporting events and concerts, but now card companies are tweaking services to keep customers close.
We think back to the Great Recession, and we saw credit card charge-offs peaked at about 10.5%. Card companies are definitely worried that we could match or exceed that total.
American Express could be among the hardest hit by the pandemic.
A company like American Express typically makes about 30% of its money from travel and entertainment spending.
And card companies may be hoping that people who can't make all their payments stick with the card that treats them the best.
They'd rather get some of your money than none of your money.
And we'll soon learn more about how much money they're getting. They report financial results in the coming weeks. Denise Pellegrini, Bloomberg Radio.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon NA, member FDIC.
To be in the markets now, you need nerves of steel.
I mean, we're not supposed to be hysterical.
And Bloomberg surveillance.
Let's just start with something extreme.
What are you comparing this to?
Tom Keene and Jonathan Ferro.
Your call, your message to your clients on a morning like this morning.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern.
What are you doing to adjust your economic growth numbers?
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
Fiscal stimulus could really shape things in the months ahead.
Bloomberg, the world is listening.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is Bloomberg Wall Street Week with David Weston from Bloomberg Radio.
It was another week of bad numbers, retail sales numbers, industrial output numbers, and those jobless claims as millions more Americans are left unemployed. We talked with Wall Street Week contributor Afsaneh Beschloss of the Rock Creek Group, and we asked her whether we could be headed for a jobless recovery.
The numbers were more pessimistic than the market expected today. It's interesting that the market itself has not reacted as negatively to those numbers so far as we would have expected. But the interesting thing about the numbers that we saw is that they do not really they do not show the negativity of many CEOs and CFOs that we've been talking to and polling. And if you talk to a lot of CFOs right now, what they're seeing is that even if we come back at the end of Q2 or have a relatively more positive outcome, we still will have less employment coming out of this than people expect. So I have seen numbers are up to 10 to 30% less employees when we stabilize. So that will have a very big impact on the longer term markets, but also the economy.
Are we looking at the possibility of a somewhat jobless recovery then, Afsaneh?
Well, it may not be jobless, but it will be at a lower level of employment than I think most people expect. What we're seeing is both the CFOs of the largest companies not seeing employment come back to quite where it was after this crisis, but also, as we've seen with the PPP and the programs for the smaller businesses, those businesses are finding that it has been very difficult to actually get access to the PPPs, which have now been all fully allocated. And unless we get another batch of it, it's not going to be very helpful. Plus, it seems like the market is talking about a lot of bigger firms having had better access to the PPPs than the true moms and pops or the smaller enterprises. So again, from an employment point, it's not clear either for the larger companies or the smaller companies that were hoping to get access to the PPPs, that their employment numbers will come up as we expected. The other thing that I think is worth looking at is that, for example, in China, what the government has done is actually just push out cash through Alipay to every Chinese person or most Chinese people. So you get a cash account on your Alipay and you can buy goods with it. You actually have to exit your home. You can't order online. You have to go out, and they're trying to get people to normalize behavior, to go out on the streets to buy a cup of coffee, to get a meal, and maybe even go to the movies or whatever. But we don't really have that. We're not really accessing the end consumer through the programs we've got in the U.S.
Afsaneh, you know a lot about oil and energy. That's where you started out as an expert in that area. What about this report that the government may actually pay oil producers to keep their oil in the ground, sort of have the strategic petroleum reserve reside in the ground? Does that make sense?
You know, it's cheaper to do that sometimes than storage, especially we're running out of storage space in the U.S., but also outside the U.S. So I think, you know, if you assume that energy is oil and gas are not renewable, in fact, it means that if you keep your stock and its value goes up over a very long time, it may not be exactly the most stupid program to have. It's not exactly a common plan that the DOE has had in the past. Most of the time, I think we have expected that our storage spaces would be available and be able to do the same thing as we're talking about. Also, because all the tankers that are out on the ocean are also getting full, and most likely by sometime in April or May they will be full. We might have to stop producing, in which case there will have to be some sort of program if we want to support the industry domestically. Whether this is the way to do it, or another way might be to help the companies with their credit programs and things like that, might be more sensible.
You mentioned the possibility of the employment situation not coming fully back. And you look at the oil industry, are we looking at the possibility of some long-term, even maybe permanent changes in the structure of the industry? For example, in the shale oil producers down in the oil patch, they are really hurting. I'm not sure they'll fully come back.
You're absolutely right, David. On the other hand, I think what we're seeing, which is very surprising, some of the numbers we've been seeing this week, in fact, is that renewable energy now has reached about just over 20% of our total power grid in the U.S. And in fact, the Lone Star states, Texas, is a hub of not just oil and gas the way we think about it, but they have been building a quarter of all new solar capacity that has been installed in the U.S., which may come as a surprise to most people who think of Texas just as an oil and gas economy. So on the one hand, you see that employment in one part of the energy sector is going down, but the employment potential for renewable energy might be going up at the same time. And the question is, will the renewables survive and actually thrive as energy prices stay lower?
In a world in which we have much more renewable energy and less of the fossil fuels, does that require as much employment? Because we can see, for example, in the auto industry, electric vehicles don't require the same number of workers as internal combustion engines.
It might be that, you know, the cars themselves don't, but or they're, you know, manufactured differently. But at the same time, installing capacity, you know, let's say solar on top of your house or in industries, it still is relatively, it does need labor, a different kind of labor, maybe trained in a different way. All the parts and all the services that you need for renewables also, or clean water, or anything climate related also will generate a lot of employment. In fact, as we speak, I would dare to say that the services part related to renewables is experiencing a problem with getting all the access to good labor and experienced labor because we don't have that level of labor experience in services part of renewables and water and things like that. So there is a mismatch there, and if we can get our training programs up, we might be able to help some of these unemployment problems that we're seeing in the other parts of the energy sector. And I think I should also mention that in emerging markets, you're seeing the opposite trend because a lot of them are energy importers. So just like in the U.S. will become very strong energy producer, in a lot of countries that are energy importers, they will have the opposite experience in the sense that as their economies start coming up, they will benefit actually from these level of low energy prices, and that will in effect help their unemployment problems in the longer run.
That was Wall Street Week contributor Afsaneh Beschloss. Coming up on Wall Street Week, we stay with the international response to the crisis and talk with the IMF's former chief economist about what the G20 did this week to help countries less fortunate. That's next on Wall Street Week on Bloomberg.
Message and data rates may apply to you. Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times, our commitment to providing you with the best mortgage experience remains. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. Mortgage rates remain near historic lows. If you think that now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
The Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast.
How did the Yankees become this mega valuable team?
Where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
From the marketing perspective, where are the dollars spent?
From union heads to team owners, Scott Soshnick and Michael Barr speak to the names that power this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Boston Red Sox CEO Sam Kennedy.
National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Bloomberg Business of Sports. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
NC and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Hey y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires, which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire. And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
This is your Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini. Those luxurious, cavernous Greenwich, Connecticut mansions are back in fashion.
People from Manhattan are now looking for a place to escape and stay in place, a place that's bigger than their Manhattan apartment.
And Bloomberg's Oshrat Carmil says even upcountry homes far from the station are desirable again.
So they're coming to Greenwich, and suddenly these homes that have been sitting for sale for a while are now in high demand and being fought over as short-term rentals.
And the coronavirus is driving up prices as well.
You're seeing rentals being fought over and some of the prices of these rentals being bid up in competition from people who want to get out.
It's not just rentals either. Home sales in Greenwich jumped 39% in the first quarter compared to a year ago. That's according to appraiser Miller Samuel and brokerage Douglas Elliman. And early indications are that interest continues to be strong throughout Fairfield County this month. And that's your Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini.
25 years ago, NJIT graduate Dick Sweeney co-founded Keurig Green Mountain, a company whose incredible innovations changed the way the world brews a cup of coffee. Today, he lectures widely on business leadership and is a strong advocate for NJIT's work to combine business education with the power of STEM.
NJIT is definitely fostering the innovative thinking for budding entrepreneurs simply because that's the world we live in. NJIT is producing students that have been trained, educated, and given the business acumen to be a contributor to a company. The distinct mission is to develop great STEM scholars. The attributes I've always looked for in team members are heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So we want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. The student coming out of NJIT has experienced all of that.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at seic.com/seize change.
Now the news. Special report coronavirus update. I'm Christopher Cruz. Protesters in a number of states are demanding that their governors cancel stay-at-home orders, including in Maryland and California. Some beaches have been reopened in Jacksonville, Florida. Rhode Island's Governor Gina Raimondo this morning said reopen but go slow.
If we don't do it safely and in compliance with what the experts are telling us, we'll be right back in the soup, and we can't afford that.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says he wants to reopen as well, but not right now.
Testing is how you monitor the rate of infection and you control for it. And that is the whole tension in reopening. Everybody wants to reopen. You don't need to hold up a placard saying we want to reopen.
The French Navy says more than half of the sailors aboard the country's flagship aircraft carrier became infected with the coronavirus as the ship traveled through the Mediterranean, the North Sea, and the Atlantic Ocean. I'm Christopher Cruz.
And I'm Susanna Palmer in the Bloomberg Newsroom. Reuters quotes people familiar with the matter as saying Neiman Marcus Group is preparing to file for bankruptcy protection as soon as this week. That would make it the first major U.S. department store operator to succumb to the economic fallout from the pandemic. Governors of New York and New Jersey called on the Trump administration to help them with funding to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Here's Governor Andrew Cuomo from yesterday's briefing.
We do need their coordination. We do need their partnership.
NBC reports governors from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut announced yesterday the reopening of boatyards and marinas for personal use. Strict social distancing and sanitization protocol must still be followed, and chartered and rental services will not resume. Restaurants at those locations can serve only takeout and delivery. Another food producer is pausing operations because of the virus. 2 units of Hormel Foods, Rochelle Foods, and Alma Foods are suspending production for 14 days following a closure notice from local health authorities because of the virus pandemic. Last week, Smithfield Foods closed its pork processing facility in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Cognizant Technology Solutions, one of the world's largest providers of IT services, says it's the victim of a ransomware attack. More from Bloomberg's Denise Pellegrini.
Cognizant says it has been hit by the Maze ransomware group. The anonymous hackers behind Maze have made headlines in recent months for publicly holding victims hostage by threatening to leak company information if the target doesn't pay its ransom. Computer security blog Bleeping Computer reports hackers linked to Maze have denied involvement in this attack on Cognizant. The alleged targets of Maze have included the city of Pensacola in Florida, cybersecurity insurance provider Chubb, and a Canadian construction company. Denise Pellegrini, Bloomberg Radio.
Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Susanna Palmer. This is Bloomberg.
This is Bloomberg Wall Street Week with David Weston from Bloomberg Radio.
G20 finance ministers agreed this week to suspend debt repayment by some of the poorest nations around the world. We talked with the former chief economist for the IMF, now a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, Maury Upsfeld, about why this is what was needed.
Well, it's certainly a great help in the situation. The poorer countries are going to be facing an unprecedented health crisis and having to deal with international debt repayments at the same time when there are such great expenditure needs and resource needs, and their economies are in trouble would really be an undue burden on them. So I think any sort of relief they can get during this crisis period is welcome.
So you perfectly anticipated my question. Was it's not enough to say you can keep the cash for the time being, you don't have to pay your debts, but they're going to need cash as well infused. And as I understand it, there is a proposal, is there not, for a special drawing rights issuance? And the report actually Mr. Lemaire over in France was that the United States was resisting that. Is that consistent with what you've heard?
Well,
Oui, il me voit. Attends, la radio, c'est là-bas.
Has made a proposal. Others have proposed this. It's a fairly low-cost way to greatly improve the liquidity of these poorer countries at a time of crisis. And there have over the years been many criticisms of special drawing rights, most of which don't hold much water. So we think it's a step that would be pretty easy to take, and would give these countries some unconditional resources that would have a high value to them in this crisis.
At the same time, the developed countries are struggling mightily as well. Is the G20 doing what?
Voilà.
Ok. Bon, imaginons qu'on mette ça comme ça. Ou bien comme ça. Non, ça c'est pas bon.
Non, ça, voilà, ça c'est bon.
Comme ça c'est bon. Ok. Ce qu'on va faire, je vais changer le destination, je vais envoyer ça sur Facebook. Et tu vas aller maintenant sur Facebook te connecter. Je vais te donner le nom de la plateforme sur Facebook.
Et puis on va voir si on se voit.
Si on se voit. Et maintenant, je vais créer l'audience sur Facebook pour mettre ça live. OK?
Yep.
Donc, j'éteins d'abord le live ici. Stop the streaming.